So today we are hosting this online Westfalen connection session together with the Westfälische Gesellschaft für Genealogie und Familienforschung, the Westphalian Society for Genealogy and Family History, WGGF, located in the most wonderful Westphalian town ever, the historical town of Münster. And we are hosting this session. And we are hosting this session together with the United Nations of Genealogy, the International German Genealogy Partnership, IGGP, and members of the board of the IGGP are here with us today. Today we all are a big Westphalian family searching for information about our Westphalian roots. So welcome everybody to our family reunion. The most important word for today is connection. To connect to other researchers and members of the WGGF to find more information about our Westphalian family history. Please mute your microphone during the presentations. You can unmute your microphone by yourself after the presentations by clicking the microphone button. When you want to ask or when you want to share information. If you like, you can turn on your camera because it would be wonderful to see everyone of our big Westphalian family today face to face. You cannot successfully connect to others to find important information if you don't know who is here with us in this meeting. So please do us a favor and open the participant list to check who is with us today. Maybe you know some of them and want to connect. When you want to speak, you can do it by microphone, or you can virtually raise your hand by clicking a button located in the bottom frame of the participants list. After raising your hand virtually, please wait until your name will be called. And open the chat, please, and type in where you're from. Type in 2 or 3 family names of your ancestors and the names of the towns or villages where they came from in Westphalia. This shall be visible for all participants. Maybe others are searching for the same names in the same region, and maybe there's a new unknown cousin of yours here in this meeting. Everything can be possible. And please use the chat to ask, help, and share information. Fill the chat with questions, information, and links to useful websites you know, to help and to connect with others. You can save the chat anytime on your computer by clicking on the square with the 3 dots in the bottom frame of the chat window. And after this session, we want to invite you to our virtual WGGF lounge. That means this Zoom meeting room will remain open for further talks, questions, discussions, and connections. There is such a variety of genealogical resources here in Westphalia, so that today's connection session only can be an introduction to Westphalian research. And this Westphalian connection session will not be the last one. And now I want to give the word to the president of the International German Genealogy Partnership, IGGP. Good morning, Ingeborg Carpenter in Sacramento, California.
Guten Morgen, Georg. Thank you very much. I would like to say hello in English and in German. All the English speakers in the United States, I'm sure, can understand some German, and if not, it gives you a chance to hear what your ancestors sounded like. Anyway, I will start in German. I would like to say Guten Morgen und herzliche Grüße aus Kalifornien. Hier ist es 10 Uhr morgens und guten Abend nach Deutschland. Mein Name ist Ingeborg Carpenter. Ich bin die erste Vorsitzende der IGGP und ich freue mich, Sie auf dieser Connection Session begrüßen zu dürfen. So eine Connection Session, so ein Zusammenkommen gleichgesinnter Familienforscher, wo man sich treffen und austauschen kann, liegt mir immer sehr am Herzen und ist ein ganz wichtiger Grund, dass unsere Partnerschaft überhaupt zustande kam. Denn ist das Ziel dieser Partnerschaft die Zusammenarbeit der einzelnen Vereine der deutschen Genealogie, die wirklich weltweit existieren. Wir wollen das intensivieren. Wir wollen uns gegenseitig in unserer Forscherarbeit unterstützen, wollen voneinander lernen, wollen unser erforschtes Wissen teilen und unsere Erfahrungen austauschen. Oder wie heute Abend, wollen Vorträge hören über das Wie der genealogischen Forschung, das Warum und das Wieso unserer Vorfahren. Damit darf ich auch unseren neuesten Partnerschaftsverein, die Westfälische Gesellschaft für Genealogie und Familienforschung, ganz herzlich willkommen heißen. Und auch den neu gewählten Vorstand der WGGF ganz herzlich gratulieren. Ich freue mich sehr auf unsere Zusammenarbeit, die ja schon heute Abend beginnt. Und ganz besonders freue ich mich, dass unser Zusammenkommen uns heute nach Westfalen führt. Denn meine Wurzeln väterlicherseits sind ganz tief im Münsterland verankert. Aber genug von mir. Ich wünsche Ihnen einen gemütlichen Forscherabend und vergessen Sie nicht, morgen das zweite Kerzchen auf dem Adventskranz anzuzünden. Und vielen Dank für dieses schöne Nikolaus-Abendgeschenk.
Ja.
Und jetzt auf Englisch. Good morning and greetings from California. It's 10 a.m. here. Good evening to Germany. My name is Ingeborg Carpenter. I'm the president of the International German Genealogical Partnership, the IGGP. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to this connection session. Such a connection session, such a meeting of like-minded genealogists where you can meet and exchange ideas is always very important to me. It's a very big reason that our partnership came about at all. Because it is the goal of the partnership to intensify the cooperation of the individual associations of German genealogy that exists worldwide. We want to support each other in our research, want to learn from one another, want to share our accumulated knowledge and exchange our experiences. And we will do that today. So that's wonderful. And it gives me great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to our newest IGGP partner, the Westphalia Society for Genealogy and Family Research, the WGGF. And I also warmly congratulate the newly elected board of the WGGF. I'm really looking forward to our working together and starting today. And I'm particularly pleased that our meeting today leads us to Westphalia, because my paternal roots are very deeply anchored in the Münsterland. But enough about me. I wish you a cozy research evening, and don't forget to light the second candle on your Advent wreath tomorrow. And thank you. This is a very nice Nikolaus evening present to me. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Ingeborg. And I said the IGGP and everything is about connections to spread information in all directions, to help to find out more information about our family history. And now I want to call the president of the Westfälische Gesellschaft für Genealogie und Familienforschung, Jörg Wunschhofer. Jörg, are you ready for some words? Then I will.
Yes, I will give my words in English, so it's the easiest way to understand. Well, our society, we are in the year 2020, and we are within the 100th anniversary of our society, but the circumstances of the corona pandemic, we were a victim of it. We had planned to do our celebrating event in March of this year, but it had to be canceled. So we had a very special anniversary. But we shouldn't always look backwards, we should look forward. And this event here and our new partnership with IGGP is a very good opportunity of participation and collaboration. So just have a nice evening and good results. Thank you.
Thank you, Jörg. So now I want to give the word to the business manager of the WGGP, Uwe Standera, to start with his presentation. Uwe, are you ready?
Yes, hello together. At first, please excuse my English. I learned it at school, and I work with a Google Translator for this lesson. And I hope that all is so translated by this, what I will say. The first part is a geographic lesson. Where is Westphalian? You have an ancestor and you know that he is immigrated to the USA in the 19th century. And you know also he come from Westphalia. No is the question, where is Westphalia? The first picture, please.
Moment.
Yes, you see the map of Germany, and in red is the area Westphalia. You see in the north left the North Sea, on the right the east the East Sea, and in the south the area of Bavaria or Württemberg. And I know many people in the USA. They have ancestors in Westphalian and also in Bavaria or in Württemberg, because the ancestors who immigrated to the USA, they like to marry also immigrants. And I think many of you see this by your own ancestors, that people married, one is from Westphalian and one is from Bavaria or Saxon. Yes, and the next card, please.
Moment, please. This is this one here. Okay, this one.
Yes. Westphalian is divided into administrative districts. These again into districts and cities. And important for us is the part Westphalian in red or pink, Regierungsbezirk Münster, in gray, Regierungsbezirk Arnsberg, and in green, Regierungsbezirk Detmold. Before 1947 was the name Regierungsbezirk Minden. And for your searching to the ancestors is the old name, Regierungsbezirk Minden, important. Because many documents you find under this name, and after me, Roland will say many to the archives and to the documents where you find there.
Next picture.
No.
Okay.
Yes, this is also the area when people speak from a Westphalian. Many cards are in the internet, and Volker, I speak it just in Germany. Wenn du die Adresse eingeben kannst von der LWL-Seite, wo die Karten gezeigt werden.
Mache ich.
Gut, Dankeschön.
Volker, do you need screen sharing?
Please?
Just wait a minute.
Do you need screen sharing?
You need to, yeah, let him do that.
Okay. Okay, Volker.
Ja, kleinen Moment.
Hm?
Wenn ich es jetzt so schnell finden würde.
Yes, I speak more. The development of the population in Westphalia is also interesting. The population, I hope the word is correct, quadruplet, vervierfacht, between 1816, 1 million, to 1910, 4 million people. And this is the major factor of, for the immigration. There was simply not enough work in Westphalia for all people, and poor harvests make the life difficult. In many years, people have not enough to eat, simply said. And so many people say it's better to go to the USA. There, I hope I have a better life. Another map clearly shows how many people have immigrated from which region.
Number 3.
Picture 3.
Picture 3. Okay, let's see where this is. Yeah. Can you see that? Picture 3?
Nein, noch nicht.
Noch nicht. So that's picture 3. 1, 2, 3. This must be picture 3. Yep.
Yes, you see many red points, and little points are stands for a little part of immigrants, and a big red point say from there are immigrated many people. And you see in the northeast of Westphalian, Bielefeld, Herford, Enger, Lemgo, Detmold, Petershagen. This area there are many people who immigrated to the USA. In another area in the south, there is das Sauerland, Siegerland, Wittgensteiner Land. The points are little. It's a little part of people immigrated. And yeah, the question is, there are not so much people in this area. In the Sauerland, you have wood, but little village, and in north east Westphalian, you have many towns and many villages. Or is the answer of the question to the little points that are not many documents in the archives? So you have not names who immigrated. Yeah. And yeah, on this the archival records, which are few in the Arnsberg district. On the other hand, it can be that the people who live there ist gering, für wenig, also eine geringe Bevölkerungsanzahl, nennt sie.
That there are fewer people there.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now to the immigrants. Perhaps a date of birth is still known, or even a place of birth. But the question of the place of birth is a most important question. You must find the correct baptismal record, because in the other way you find the wrong family. When you have a wrong baptismal record, you have another person as your ancestor is. And so you you must be sure that you have the correct baptismal entry of your ancestor. When you look from the USA, there are numerous documents on this. In the USA, you have passenger lists, immigrant lists, the census, and so on. Here you can find immigration files in many archives. In general, you couldn't just immigrate, you need a permit from the authorities. Many documents, the names are excerpted to a book for special areas in Westphalia. And I will show you one example and show you who is this book, who you can work with this book. The picture 4, please.
Picture number 4. One moment, please. So where's the picture number 4? One moment, please. Yeah. Okay. Can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. On the homepage of the Westphalian Society for Genealogy and Family Research, you will find information about the relevant publications on the homepage under Basic Knowledge and then under Immigration. This book is an example for the area of Münster. And the author ist Friedrich Müller, westfälische Auswanderer im 19. Jahrhundert. Between 1803 and 1850. So. Yeah, I think it's important to show you how you work with this book. And einmal eine Liste, wo die Buchstaben mit sind, also wo die Namen anfangen.
Welche Seite?
Also ich hatte seitlich so einen Streifen, wo das Register mit drin war.
Also ich habe.
Oh, it's good. This side.
Yeah. Okay.
You have a number with a name. A moment, please. Okay. Yeah, you have the name and many informations to this name. But you see little letters, A, B, C, and so on. And these letters means what you read there. Please a side back or 2 sides.
2 sides back.
No.
More? Oh yeah.
Yes.
This one.
On the right side, you see the letters A, B, C, and so on. And A means name, family name, and the village who lives the person and the profession. And when you read the letter A in the text, you know, it means the name of the person who immigrated. under B, you see the birth date, the village of birth, and under C, informations about the parents of the immigrant. And it's easier for the text when you have the letters and nicht by all the names die ausführliche Beschreibung.
A complete description.
The complete description, thank you. It's easier to read A and you know, aha, it's mean name, family name, and village. And also with DCF, the name of the parents, the name of the wife, the name of relatives, dates of birth, the time of immigration, the year, and the area from which will the person immigrated, and also relatives. They live in Germany. Yes, and of the author. And when you look to the sites, the names, we have on the right side 22a, the name Jürgen Heinrich Knüppe aus Dü, parish Kappeln. You know, okay, it's the name of the immigrant. And so on, by B, under B, the land who will to this he will immigrated. Then the wife and then nee, irgendwas passt. Da sind irgendwie die Bilder rechts bei mir hier vor.
Du kannst die oben rechts packen in der schwarzen Leiste, der obere Rand, und kannst die dann wegschieben. Oder nimm von der linken Seite, ein.
Ja. Yeah, I look on the left, under 16, the name Heinrich W. Wilhelm Himmerich aus Lien is the name of the immigrant. Krämer, it's Kaufmann.
Merchant.
Is a profession.
A merchant?
Merchant, yes. Krämer is a merchant. And to the letters B and C, there are no informations. And so it's go on with D, Luise Charlotte Schauwecker. O, the year 1832, the year of the immigration, and under P, North American to Baltimore. And so you can look, we have books of many parts of Westphalian. If you find your ancestor in these books. But not all the documents in the archives are in these books. Many documents are not noch nicht bearbeitet. There are only the originals in the archive, but you have no no book of them. You must look also in the archive. For the county of Lippe, you can find detailed information on immigration from Lippe on the homepage of the Genealogical Evening. I will look if I can write the email, the address in the chat when I am ready here. And there you can search when you think one of your ancestors can be from Lippe immigrated. Yeah, I think this was the both parts. Where is Westphalian? How you can find the correctly informations to your ancestor who immigrated, and many books are online, and you can look from the USA about the homepage of the Westphalian Genealogy, Westphalian Society. Kann man die Seite auch zeigen?
Moment.
Das wäre zum
The link is in the chat.
Ich kann die Seite auch gleich nochmal zeigen.
Ist sie zu sehen? Ja.
Yes.
This is the starting page.
Yeah. And you see the names of the areas, and many books are online, or you can read where are the books are in Germany find. Yes, I think that was what I can say to you of the question, the link between USA and Westphalian, that you find the correct ancestor, and Roland Linde will speak about the documents and files when you have the correct ancestor find, that you can search more ancestors in Germany in Westphalian. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Uwe. So do you have any questions to Uwe's presentation? Then please unmute your microphone or raise your hand via the participants list.
I have a question. This is Ingeborg.
Yeah.
Do you have to be a member to be able to look into all these publications, or are they open to the population so we can all read it?
It's open access. You can find the links to the PDFs of 3 of the 4 books, and we will try to get a PDF for the 4th book that's still missing there. So you have all the information about immigrants from the district of Minden and Münster. The district of Arnsberg, we don't have such books about the immigrants from there. It's difficult. There are not many records in the archives. And there wasn't a researcher who did the work for the district of Arnsberg until now. Maybe someday we'll find someone who will try to make this. But it's open access for the 4 books that the WGGF edited on the immigrants from the districts of Arnsberg, of Minden and Münster.
Thank you very much.
Some more questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lothar.
Lothar meldet sich.
Lothar Wieser?
Ja.
Lothar Wieser? Ja. Kann man mich hören?
Yeah.
Ja.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, yeah.
So I'm member of the Badisch Südbrasilianische Gesellschaft. My special interest is on Westphalias in southern Brazil. So I would like to know if there are central registers or internet sites with immigrants to Brazil, and especially in your books, in the registers, can you find immigrants to Brazil? Because I'm not looking for a special family. Sometimes I get questions from Brazilians from an internet forum from Brazil, and they are asking for ancestors in northern Germany. And I'm specialist for immigration from Baden, from southwest of Germany. We too have many immigrants to North America, but a lot of in southern Brazil, and also Westphalians, and they are looking for their ancestries and to have some information for them. Okay. Can you help me?
Roland?
Were immigrants to Brazil mentioned in these books, but not every immigrant told the officers where he wanted to go, and some of them left without a permission. So in Westphalia, they didn't know where they went, in which direction they left. So in the name registers index, what do you call it in English? These books have indexes, you can look up names of families, of persons, and of places which are mentioned in the books, and you can watch if Brazil is mentioned or some places in Brazil. On our page about Auswanderer immigrants, we have also a PDF made by Martin Holz, who passed away some years ago, and he put together many names and dates of immigrants from Münsterland to Brazil. This is the only specific documentation about immigrants to Brazil from Westphalia for the Münsterland, not for other regions.
Okay, some more questions?
I have found people going to Brazil in the Hamburg passenger lists, and they usually say which Brazilian state they're going to, and they're almost always going to the southern Brazil because that's the big part for German immigration there. And the other day, I can't remember how I found it. I think it was through Family Search. They have a wiki about German research in Brazil, and I went to some Brazilian websites that have some immigrant lists. They are not open to the public. You have to then ask and maybe pay to get the record that they have. So that's what I can say about Brazil.
I can also say something to Brazil, if I may.
Yes, please.
That is the fact that one of the Brazilian German genealogy societies are a member of IGGP. So if you'd go to our website and connect with Genealogica RS, you should be able to connect with them. They've done family books. They put family books together, and I think you could connect via our website with Andre Hamann. He is very Yeah, it would be under G, Genealogica. There it is, RS, CFPs, and then there's, yes, exactly. And they will help you any way they can. They're very active and very good.
Are there any other questions directly to Uwe's talk?
I wondered if you had some members working on things for the Hintergrund area?
I don't know which part of Westphalia is Hintergrund.
Very much south in the Ziegen, Burbach.
Okay, we don't have many members doing research there. It's my ancestors are from Wittgenstein. That's in the neighborhood, but that's a region that is not very rooted in our society. There are other people there in this region who research about Siegerland and Wittgenstein. Maybe if you contact us, we can give you addresses. Georg, soll ich dann einfach mal anschließen?
Yeah, okay, I will take back the screen sharing. You want to share your screen then, yeah?
Yes, please.
Okay,
And we'll have the possibility to ask questions and discuss also later on.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Click on screen sharing.
Und noch eine Frage, ich wollte ja noch das irgendwo schicken, die Adresse von der lippischen Auswandererseite.
Steht schon im Chat.
And I have also written some links in the chat. You can see if it's interesting for you.
And it's also on our page, on our website.
Okay, okay.
So
seeing your screen.
Do you see my screen?
Yep.
This is our Lippe, immigrants from Lippe site. It's a big database with thousands of people. I'm also from Lippe, and I think this is the most advanced database on immigrants for every region, for any region in Westphalia. So if your ancestor may have come from Lippe, Lippe-Detmold, you should check it out. And if you don't find anything, please contact Olaf Wiere, who is the webmaster, and we will surely find you on immigrants from Lippe, from the Lippe area. I will put my manuscript on the screen so you can read, because there are many names, difficult names, so you have a better picture. And we will put our texts, PDFs on our website, also Uwe's text, so you can go through it after the meeting if you want to dive in more into these things, into the subject. Yeah, dear genealogists, plural, my name is Roland Linde, and I would like to give you some advice how you can obtain further information about your ancestors in Westphalia. Uwe showed you some, gave you some advice where you can look up what's in the archives in Westphalia about immigrants to the USA. Because, as I said, you need the exact place to go on in your research. it can be difficult if you don't have or find a special place name or a smaller region like Lippe or Münsterland to find your ancestors. That's more difficult because there is no such thing as a names database for the whole of Westphalia. But if you can say, if you are sure that your ancestor is from maybe Lüdenscheid or Hittenhausen, then you can start to trace back their ancestors. But I can only give you a very few initial clues because it's a fairly broad topic. There are many different sources you can use. And if you go beyond 1800, earlier than 1800, it's once again different because of the feudal system and the sources that are rooted in this old system. I will talk about mostly the 19th, 20th century, because if you start with your research, that's most likely the period of time you will start your research in Westphalia. Perhaps I can tell you more about the history of Westphalia in another conference that might be interesting. It's a diverse landscape with strong cultural, economic, and religious differences. It's Westphalia is not one unit, and in every part of Westphalia, people are the same, and the problems of family research are the same. That's a wide range, and maybe some cultural, historical background can help you to learn more about your specific ancestors. But this would be too much for our meeting now. Around 1800, Westphalia still consisted of various clerical and secular principalities, larger and smaller, some of which were Catholic and some were Protestants. I will show you a map, and we have links on our website to these maps. It's this geschichtliche Handatlas für Westfalen. For some years, points in time, you can look up the maps that show you how Westphalia worked at that time. This is, I'm searching for the map for 1801. Ah, it's this. It's around 1800. You have lots of principalities, like the Fürstbistum Münster. The Bishop of Münster was the principal of this territory, but where right in the middle of the Fürstbistum Münster, where was the Grafschaft Steinfurt, the county of Steinfurt, that was Protestant region. Münsterland, Fürstbistum Münster, was a Catholic region. And Lingen, Tecklenburg counties that already belonged to Prussia, there were also Protestant. You have Ravensberg and Minden, also Protestants, also belonging to Prussia already at around 1800. This is the Principality of Lippe, which was separated from the whole of Westphalia till 1947. And so on and so on. You see, it's we call it a Flickenteppich. What's the English word? Nancy, a Flickenteppich.
Maybe a patchwork.
A patchwork of territories which all have their own counts or princes or bishops that governed these territories. And that changed drastically in the times of Napoleon. when the French came under Emperor Napoleon and turned Westphalia pretty much on its head. With the Congress of Vienna in 1815, Westphalia first emerged as a state unit, as a province of the Kingdom of Prussia. Münster became the provincial capital. In 1816, Prussia set up 3 administrative districts, Regierungsbezirke, within this province. Münster, that's Western Westphalia, Arnsberg, Southern Westphalia, and Minden, Eastern Westphalia. The administrative districts were again divided into districts, Kreise, and these into rural and urban communities, Gemeinden und Städte. I will show you also a map of how that looked like. If I find it. Habe ich hier die Übersicht. Westfalen und Lippe 1818. It looked like this. No more Flickenteppich. It was all one big unit, the province of Westphalia, belonging to the Kingdom of Prussia, Königreich Preußen, which spread from the Rhine to the Balticum. It was by far the biggest, largest state in Germany at that time. And here you see the district of Münster, Regierungsbezirk Münster, with the capital city of Münster. It must be this, I think. This is a district of Minden, East Westphalia, with Minden, Bielefeld, Paderborn. And this is the district of Arnsberg. It's also very diverse. You have the Sauerland, rural and hilly landscape, mountains, lots of mountains, less population, but also the Ruhr district, which became the industrial heart of Germany in the time, in the ongoing 19th century. At the end of the 19th century, the Ruhr district, which partly belongs to Westphalia and to the province of Rhineland, was the most crowded, most populated region in Germany. There were only in Saxony, in Sachsen, that was this highly industrial and populated than the Ruhr area. So this is a special part of Westphalia, but not at the beginning of the 19th century. It was also very rural, very agricultural, geprägt, had an agricultural character to it, like most part of Westphalia. We have the province of Westphalia with these 3 districts, and we have the administrative districts, the Regierungsbezirke. We have the Kreise, counties, as you say in the USA, and we have the communities and cities, Gemeinden and Städte. This administrative landscape doesn't sound terribly exciting, but as a genealogist, you have to know that in order to find the sources. You need to know the place of your ancestors, which parish they belong to, which Kreis, Landkreis, county, which Regierungsbezirk, district they belong to, so you can figure out which archive is the right one to search for further information. The Prussians founded a state archive in Münster in which the historical tradition for the whole of Westphalia was brought together. It still exists today under a different name. I will show you some pictures. This is the States Archive in Münster. This is a very old archive building from the 19th century. This is not Münster, this is Duisburg. But some of you already visited this place. And the other archive, States Archive, is in Detmold, the city where I live. Exactly 150 years later, after the administrative districts were founded in 1946, the Allied occupying power smashed the Free State of Prussia, which had dominated Germany since 1815. From the two western provinces of Prussia, the Rhineland and Westphalia, today's state of North Rhine-Westphalia, Nordrhein-Westfalen, emerged under the British military government at the time. And in 1949, the Bundesrepublik Deutschland, Federal Republic Germany, was founded. In 1947, the former Principality of Lippe was added to North Rhine-Westphalia. The Minden district government has now been relocated to Detmold, the old capital of Lippe, and the Detmold administrative district was created, today mostly known as Ostwestfalen-Lippe or Regierungsbezirk Detmold. And I will show you the map, how it looks like today. So many tabs. No kingdom anymore. I thought I opened the map. I will continue, or I will show you at least Detmold on the map. It's here, and Minden is in the most north of Westphalia at the Weser River. The Minden district government has now been relocated to Detmold, the old capital of Lippe, and the Detmold administrative district was created. Another state archive has now been founded in Detmold. I showed you some pictures from Google, which has become responsible for the transmission of the former administrative district of Minden and the former Principality of Lippe. It also became a civil status archive, Personenstandsarchiv, for the whole of Westphalia-Lippe, including the administrative districts of Arnsberg and Münster, for which the Landesarchiv Münster is otherwise responsible. This is quite a bit confusing. We have two state archives in Westphalia, in Münster and Detmold, and they both have overlapping Zuständigkeiten. Nancy, was ist das Wort?
Areas they're responsible for.
Yes, and subjects they're responsible for. Detmold is the civil status archive for the Personenstandsregister and Kirchenbücher. That's what I will talk about now. Today, the two former state archives are called, hold on, State Archives North Rhine-Westphalia, Department East Westphalia-Lippe in Detmold. And the other one is the State Archives Archive North Rhine-Westphalia, Department Westphalia in Münster. You know, German like these very, very long names for everything. But this is very impractical even for native speakers, which is why the old terms Staatsarchiv Münster and Staatsarchiv Detmold are still used today by genealogists and other researchers, and even the archivists themselves. The recording of births, marriages, and deaths in the Prussian province of Westphalia was initially assigned to the Catholic and Protestant pastors. As I mentioned, we have some Catholic regions in Westphalia, we have some Protestants, and the Protestants are also not all one. There are the Lutherans and the Reformierte, Calvinistic. It's also confusing, but to make it simple, Catholics and Protestants. They have kept church records or parish records, Kirchenbücher, we call it Kirchenbücher, since the 17th century. Since 1815, they made the pastors copies of their church records every year and sent them to the respective district government in Minden, in Detmold, in Arnsberg, in Münster. This is how the duplicates of the Westphalian church records 1815 to 1874, the Kirchenbuchduplikate, which are now in the State Archive in Detmold, were created. So-called Jewish and dissident registers, Juden- und Dissidentenregister, were kept for members of the Jewish minority and smaller Christian communities. Most of these registers are also located in Detmold and are already available online. They are currently being developed through the crowdsourcing project Jewel. You can find it under Jewel Genealogy net. And we are working at the WGGF for about 3 years on that. Not we ourselves, but many volunteers around the world to make an index of names to all Jewish births, marriages, and death records from 1815 to 1874. And you can already look them up with the search engine. So if your ancestors were of Jewish beliefs or belong to small evangelical groups, Freikirchen we call it, you might find your ancestors in this database already, and from where you can look up the digital
images.
Digital images of the Jewish and dissident records from the archive in Detmold. In the 1870s, there was a serious conflict between the Kingdom of Prussia and the Catholic Church, known as the Kulturkampf, the war of culture between the state and the Catholic Church. For this reason, civil registry offices, we call them Standesämter, Standesamt, were set up at community level in every rural or community or town in 1874, and have since then, till now, till the present time, officially recorded births, marriages, and deaths, regardless of denomination, regardless if it's Protestants or Catholics or Jews or whatever. That didn't matter anymore. Everyone has to go to the Standesamt, to the civil register office, and announce births, marriages, and deaths. These so-called civil status registers, Personenstandsregister, are also available in two traditions. The first writings are still at the respective Standesamt, at the town or community, the municipality, or have been handed over to the archive of the municipality or the city. Nearly almost any community or city in Westphalia, Lippe, has their own archive and an archivist and a staff of people caring for that, or they come together as a Kreisarchiv, so that the Kreisarchiv ja, betreut, nennt was heißt betreut, the archives. Yeah?
The Kreisarchiv would take care of the smaller communities.
Take care, that's the word. They take care of the archives of the smaller communities who can't afford an own archive with archivists and all the stuff that goes with it. The central second transmission, the second Überlieferung of the civil status registers is in turn at the state archives in Detmold. The Standesbeamte, the officer who writes down the record of birth, marriage, and death, does makes one book for the own community, for his own community, and a duplicate a second edition and gave it also to the district in Minden, Münster, whatever. And this second transmission is now to be found at the state archives in Detmold for the whole of Westphalia, Lippe, from 1879 till now. Every year, till the present time, every year, the State Archive in Detmold receives from all the communities in Westphalia, Lippe, their annual records of birth, death, and so on. The State Archive in Detmold has started to put the death registers online for the whole of Westphalia, Lippe from 1874 to 1938. This death records from this period of time will be accessible online, and many are already online, accessible online for the whole of Westphalia, Lippe. In the next 4 or 5 years, this will be complete, so that you can look up online the death records of all the people for this period of time. In Germany, data protection laws are very strict. This has also an impact on family history. The civil birth registers, Geburtsregister, only become freely accessible after 110 years. So now in 2020, you have free access to all birth records up to 1910, but not to 1911, 12, and so on. The marriage registers, Heiratsregister, after 80 years, and the death registers, death records, after 30 years. Within these blocking periods, Sperrfristen, information can only be obtained for direct ancestors, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. If you want information from the civil status registers, there are always 2 contact points. The local this is a weird word, municipality, communal or city archive, Gemeinde- oder Stadtarchiv, or the registry office, Standesamt. In most communities, the Standesamt has brought the registers to the local archive. That is one option. The State Archive in Detmold is the other option. They have all the records for the whole of Westphalia, Lippe. Before 1874, we had to rely on the church records or parish records registers, Kirchenbücher, in which baptisms, marriages, and funerals were recorded. As already mentioned, the duplicates from the years 1815 to 74 are in the state archives in Detmold and can be viewed there, but not online until not in this present time. That may be possible in the future. Fortunately, the church archives have started to make digital copies of the original church records accessible online. The Erzbistumsarchiv Paderborn, Archdiocese Archive, and the archive in Münster of the Bistum, the Diocese, Bistumsarchiv Münster, participate in the online portal Matricula. The offer is free, registration is not required. It's an easy access, and it's the most part of Catholic Westphalia that is that you can look up there. Paderborn is still in the development phase. Münster has already largely completed the work. Unfortunately, the Essen Diocese Archive, Bistumsarchiv Essen, is not yet involved in Matricula. Although Essen is in the Rhineland, it is also responsible for the Catholic communities in the Westphalian part of the Ruhr area. Think of Dortmund, Bochum, Wanne-Eickel, and these big towns that became big industrial places in the 19th century. We still have to wait for that the Catholic Church registers to show up on Matricula. The church records from the areas of the Evangelical Church of Westphalia, Evangelische Kirche von Westfalen, and the Lippe Regional Church, Lippische Landeskirche, are available on the Archion online portal. The Protestants, they have their own online portal, archion.de. However, you have to register there and pay usage fees. The beginning of the church records varies greatly from parish to parish. A few begin as early as the 16th century, the majority in the 17th century, but due to accidents, maybe the Pfarrhaus burned down, some church registers not until the 18th century. The level of detail in the entries is also very individual, and there are also gaps in the tradition. You also have to know the traditions of name inheritance in Westphalia in order not to get on the wrong track, but more on that another time. The Hofname is a thing in Westphalia, that the name, the last name, belongs to the Hof, to the farm, and not to the family. In addition to civil status registers and church registers, there are also many other genealogically rich sources, where there are extensive records of land registers, Grundbücher, base files, Grundakten, and wills, testamente from the 19th and early 20th centuries in the Detmold and Münster state archives, and many records more. These are only some buzzwords. There are also important records in the city archives, the communal archives. The archivists there are also much better acquainted with the local conditions. They know all the stuff you want to know to get more information. Many city archives have genealogical information and reference books on their website, so you should make sure you look these sites up and find out how they can help you. And you can check out the contact address, mail address, and everything else. The archives in North Rhine-Westphalia jointly operate on an online portal, archive.nrw.de, and you can find more information about using this archive portal on our website, WGGF.de. I will show you. This is our website, www.wggf.de. www.wggf.de. And we have a website about immigrants. This is the homepage. Und unter Basiswissen haben wir eine ganze Seite über das neue Portal Archive NRW.de, which has seen a relaunch some weeks ago. And this is archive NRW.de. And you have all the archives in Westphalia there, the States Archive, the communal archives, the church archives, and many more. And if you're looking for Sterberegister from the hometown of your ancestors, and you will try to find out if they are already online, you can put Sterberegister, that's the word, and the name, place name, and you will get was heißt eine Trefferliste?
A list of results.
Yes, it's in chronological order. And if you see this symbol, that means it shows that it's a digital copy of this death record from the Standesamt. You see, it's really good quality. Ich kann es gerade nicht größer stellen, da ist das Bild drüber. Moment. So. It looks something like this. Partly printed, but the main informations are handwritten. And that might be a challenge. But we all have to go through it and to learn this handwriting of the 19th century. So that was my part. So much for now. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any direct questions?
So when you have questions to Roland's presentation, please unmute your microphone.
I have one question about in the 1850s, when there was this massive German immigration, what percentage would have been Catholic and what would have been Protestant, or was it pretty equal?
I can't tell from top of my head, but I think it must have been pretty equal, maybe slightly more Catholic than Protestant, but it's a thing of the region. If your ancestors are from the Münsterland or from the Sauerland, they are most likely to be Catholic, but if they descend from Minden-Ravensberg or the Grafschaft Mark, or Lippe, they were mostly Protestants.
Thank you.
What would be the motivations for people to emigrate?
Mostly economic reasons. In parts, Westphalia was at the beginning of the 19th century a poor country, not all the regions, but some. And at the beginning of the 19th century, we had a strong, in the rural areas, a strong home industry of Leineweberei. Nancy, what's it called in English? Leineweben.
Linen weaving.
Linen weaving. That was a strong industry before the big industry as we know it. In most parts of northern Westphalia, they were producing linen in the rural areas. But when in England, the start of the steaming machine production of textiles, of linen. This branch died in Westphalia, and people tried to figure out what to do, try to figure out what to do. Some of them were seasonal workers who went on to Netherlands and the regions on the North Sea, at the North Sea, Baltic Sea, to work on Ziegeleien, brick factories, and came back every autumn to their hometown. That was a thing. But in some regions, the people that don't have this opportunity, and in 1840s, 1850s, the population still increases, and there was no, the people didn't know how to make a living, and mostly young people who were not heirs to a farm, who have no option, no future in their home region. They took the, they tried to make their best in the United States. It was massive in the 1840s, 1850s. And then was the start of the industrialization in Westphalia. And then the people started moving to the Ruhr district, and there were metal industry. Nancy, what's the word?
There was metal industry.
Metal industry in the Ruhr region. That was the heart of industrial Germany in the late 19th. And so the numbers of immigrants began to decrease again. But there were, you can tell by the statistics of prices and taxes, if they went high, then the emigration would start again. We have, it's like waves until the first half of the 20th century, and after the Second World War, there were little waves of immigration, little and big waves of immigration to the USA, mostly economic factors, but also in the 1840s, 50s, political factors, the revolution from 1848 and 49, the democratic revolution failed. It was not a free country to live in, and people don't have many rights. And that was also a reason to go to the States or to America to live free, to have more freedom than in Germany.
A few of the immigrants also went to Australia, not very many compared to America,
yes.
But my great-grandfather and three of his brothers came to Australia in 1862, 1863, 1865, and 1871. And it was, as you said, economic reasons. There was no future in Kreuz-Wittgenstein, in the Diedenshausen and Girkhausen, whatever.
That was a very poor region, yes.
Yeah. Beautiful region. I've visited a number of times. Beautiful scenery, yes. But difficult to make a living.
Yes. Australia also, there was immigration in the late 19th century, early 20th century to the colonies in Africa and Southeastern Asia. Some you can find immigrants from Germany and Westphalia almost everywhere in the world, but the United States were the place where mostly thought of if they wanted to immigrate emigrate, and there were some states in the USA, in the Midwestern region, I think, Illinois. Is that the Midwestern? I'm not very familiar. Like Illinois and Utah, Michigan, where many Westphalians went.
So I think, Roland, we can make a little break here, and maybe we can answer the pre-sent questions, die voreingereichten.
Ja.
So they are, I think, on the Padlet.
I have a little addition to the denominations.
Yep.
Yes,
Bin ich zu hören?
yeah.
Ja.
Ja. Roland say that in the areas you look to Münster, Münsterland, they are all Catholics, and a little part was, very little part was Protestants, and the names was stands in the Catholic church records. But other was it in Minden, Ravensberg. The most of the immigrants are from Minden, Ravensberg. Remember the card with the red points?
Yes.
And there are three denominations. You have the most of them are Lutherans, and a little part was Catholics, and a little part was Calvinisten, denomination to Calvin. And Lutherans are from Luther. And there are three churches in many towns. And when you search an ancestor and you find the ancestor not in the one church, you must look in the church records of this, those other churches. And in Bielefeld and in Minden and Herford, you have three denominations with own churches. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
I like to add in general that Westphalia is always a region of emigration, ex-migration, but not a region of immigration. The whole region, well, I like to say, produced more people than having enough to eat or economical circumstances to supply them. So ex-migration, immigration is always a sign of Westphalia, not only caused by poverty, but simply by an excess of people.
Yeah. So Roland, these were the pre-sent questions, and maybe Nancy can say a word to this Padlet, because later on everybody can have access to this Padlet to add information or put in more questions. So Nancy, can you say a word to the Padlet?
Sure. The Padlet is like a virtual pin board, a bulletin board. And across the top in the white boxes are the questions that were sent in ahead of time. And under each question, there will be postings of answers. So you do need to scroll horizontally to see all the questions. And then under each question, you'll need to scroll vertically to see all the answers or links that might have been posted in response to the question. And we will use this as our handout. We'll be able to create a PDF of that and forward it to you. Roland, did you want to go through the questions and talk about some of the answers? I think Volker wanted to help you with that.
I will try. You have to, you did shorten the question to make it easier to give specific answers. The most questions were had more informations to it, and maybe the ones who send in the questions, they can reach out to us and we can give even more specific advice. So we tried to get on the point of interest for more people from that question. So where can I find records of permission to emigrate to the United States? Uwe talked about it. There are records in the state archives in Münster and Detmold, where people asked for permission to immigrate. And for the province of the district of Münster and Minden, these were some researchers go through all of these records and put together the books that we talk about. For the district of Arnsberg, this is still to be made, but there are quite less records in the state archives, state archive in Münster for this district for southern Westphalia. But that's not all. There are other records and was heißt not newspaper or official newspaper. Nancy, wie würdest du diese Amtsblätter?
Maybe like a bulletin or
an
official government bulletin, maybe.
Where you can also find informations about immigrants, mostly that left without a permission. And that was often the case, that mostly young men went without a word because they didn't want to join the military, or they had Schulden, debts.
They owed money.
They owed money. They had lots of debts to the government or to other people. And so they didn't ask for permission and went away without it. And you can only find out about this migrations on this side of the Atlantic only through these sources like these official bulletins, where it said that the Josef Schmidt from Nottuln left without a trace, and there are lots of debts and maybe relatives that don't know what's about him, and so on. So there are these are sources that can be used, and they are also in the sources on the local level. I talked about the Kommunalarchive, the archives of the communities, the cities, the counties, Kreise, and they have also records about immigration with permission and without permission. And where, if you don't find information in the books we talked about, there might be a chance that in these local archives you have more luck to find some records about that. The second question, I would like to hire a genealogist to obtain some records for me. Where can I find a list of professional genealogists working in Westfalen? And we have built a website with the names of some of these professional researchers that we know about. It's the Genealogische Dienstleister. We put the link in on the Padlet. So here you can find some addresses for people to hire for further research. These are not all the names, there are more. These are the ones that we know about or that reached out to us, and so we put them on there. Also, the state archives have lists and addresses of such professional researchers. The third question, could you explain a bit about the privacy laws in Germany? I've already talked about that. That it's quite strict in Germany. The birth records are free available after 110 years, marriage records after 80, and death records after 30 years. But to church records, Volker wrote a few informations. It can slightly differ. So the closer you come to the present time, it's possible that you can't look up the records yourself, so that you have to make a request to the archive so they can send you the information. And everything that's online, that you can call, when you can see a digital scan, a digital copy, it's of course free available, available for everybody without permission. Gibt's da noch any additions to that? I think that's the what you have to keep in mind. But if we are talking about the 19th century, normally there is no restriction. It can be some special cases, and maybe you should reach out to us, so we maybe can help you if you find restrictions before the year 1900. We talked about Brazil already. So the next questions, my ancestor fled to America after committing a crime. How can I find out what crime he committed? I already talked about these official bulletins, and there are also newspapers. You can find them on Google Books. Volker Wilmsen wrote some information about it. And we have also, you see, this is an Amtsblatt from Minden as an example, Mann-Amtsblatt from Münster. And we have an online portal for newspapers from North Rhine-Westphalia from the 19th and 20th century. We will put the link also there. That's one possibility. The other is the records about the, Nancy, was ist der Gerichtsprozess, Gerichtsverfahren?
Court cases.
Court cases. There are also records about the court cases. They are, if they still exists, they are at the State Archive in Münster for the districts of Münster and Arnsberg, and for the district of Detmold and Minden, of Lippe and Minden. You should send a request to the archive in Detmold if they have records about this court case, or if there is any court case according to your ancestor. Maybe you have luck and you find out lots of things about him that are maybe not nicely, but interesting. DNA indicates that one of my great-great-grandparents was Jewish. How can I find records of Jews in Westfalen? This is the percentage given in this test, 5 to 6 percent Ashkenazi, you find it in most every test. That doesn't have to mean that one of your great grandparents were Jewish, but it can be the case. And I talked about the Jewish registers in the Detmold archive and our website Juwel, where you can look up all the birth, marriage, and death records for the Jewish communities from 1815 to 74. Afterwards, you find all Jewish people in the Standesamtsregister, civil status registers, because they don't look at the denomination. It's mentioned there if they are Jewish or Catholic, but you from 1874 on, you will find them there, and also in other sources like Grundbücher, land records, and such things. As soon as the Jewish minority gets the rights to own land, to own houses, you will find information about them in the usual sources. In the times before the emancipation, as we call it, the Jews have far less rights than the Christian people, and they were strictly regarded by the state, by the officers, and there's lots of information in the archives about the Jewish minorities, and we have also jüdisches Gemeindehandbuch, a handbook for all the Jewish communities in Westphalia, 3 volumes with large informations where you can find sources for the special place that you're interested in, the Jewish families of that place. Yes, the next question was, I am looking for living descendants of an aunt who lived in Westfalen from about 1960 into the 1960s. How can I find out who she married and if she had children? That's a tricky one. If you don't know the place where your aunt lived, it's almost impossible to find her if she didn't have a very specific second name or family name. But if you know the place, the town, the village, you should reach out for the Kommunalarchiv, the Stadtarchiv or Gemeindearchiv for that community. They have records like the Einwohnermelderegister. Nancy, wie würde man das auf Englisch nennen? Bei euch gibt es das so in der Form.
A citizen registration.
Yes.
Database.
It's till the present time in Germany, different from America. If you change from one town to another, you have to go to the local office, to the Rathaus, and say that you are now living in this city under this address, and where they will make a record about it. And these records about the people living in the city, in the town, can go back to the late 19th century. Sometimes they are no more available because of the war, or in the communal reform, the reform of the where all the small communities came together as big communities. We lost many of these records, but you can try your luck. There can be records from the Einwohnermeldeamt. And if your aunt died there or she left the town and went to another, it's written down and you can trace there through all the stages of their life till their death. That's possible, but you need one place to start the search. And also where the children were named there. There are restrictions because of the privacy laws that can be a problem. But ask and you will most likely get help from the archive of the community. I found many church records with a similar surname to my ancestor. I cannot figure out which one is my ancestor's father. What records besides church books could I use to determine family relationships circa 1750 in Münster? Münster is quite specific. To put it general, it's a difference if they lived in a town like Münster or in a village because of different laws and rights obtained to a city or a village. In a village, you have something like the Bürgerbücher, the rolls of the citizens who have specific rights in this city, or Adressbücher, books of addresses, which can be found earlier in the cities than in the rural areas. In the rural areas, you can find many things in the land records, especially in the feudal times, where most of the farmers were not free people, but Leibeigen. Nancy, was ist das Wort? In English, Leibeigen?
I'm drawing a blank right now myself of how to describe that. Gail, do you have a good translation for that?
That's serfs.
Sklave?
Serf. Yeah,
serf.
Thank you, Kent.
Slave would be a very harsh word that doesn't fit exactly, because there were people who have their own farms and their own lives and their rights to their own, but they are not free. Were not free in a modern sense. They had a Grundherr that could be a nobleman or the prince of the count of the territory, or a Kloster, was heißt Kloster? Fällt mir gerade nicht ein. Kloster, Nancy.
Convent.
Convent, thank you.
Monastery.
Monastery, that's the word. And in the records of these monasteries or the noble families on the castles around Westphalia, they have lots of information, sometimes really way back to the late medieval times, about the farmers and their families on their farms that belong to the noble family or the monarchy or the princedom. That was bad for them, but it's luck for us, because these records sometimes are very detailed and go way beyond the church records. So there are lots and lots of records that you can look up to get more evidence on relationships, and if one person and another mentioned in the records are the same person or not. But that's a wide topic. And especially Münster, I think Volker Wilmsen can give you, who asked the question, more advice what to do. What military records are available for Westfalen? That's also a difficult question. You have to think about before 1800. It was different than afterwards. Before 1800, all the small territories, secular and clerical territories, had their own small armies. It's a big word. It's mostly some soldiers, 100 or 200. There are records in the state archives about these. There are also some publications, some books. There are some books published through the last years about the soldiers in the Napoleon Wars. And then later on in Prussian time, there was an administration of the Wehrdienst. Nancy, wie kann man das, wie ist da die Übersetzung, Wehrdienst?
Just a minute. The military service?
The military service. There are also sources in the state archives and the communal archives. But it's here and there. It's not one big list where you can look up every soldier and find when they get into the army and when get out of it, and which status they arrived or which battles they fought. That takes a lot of time to find out. From the First World War, we don't have the original records about the specific soldiers they are lost, but we have records about the soldiers in the Second World War. You can find them in the Bundesarchiv in Berlin. You can send a question to them if they have a record about your grandfather or your uncle, and it takes a long time. You have to wait, but when you finally get information about his military service in the Second World War, but there's not such a thing for the First World War or the wars from 1866 to 71, where you can only look in the local sources and maybe find something out about them. Hat da vielleicht noch jemand eine Ergänzung zu den Militärunterlagen? Ich denke, das war erstmal so im Allgemeinen. Ja, hier war eine spezielle Frage. I noticed surnames in some births and marriage records have an equal sign between names. Zum Beispiel Kleine equal Maß or Seppel equal Fricke. What does this mean and how can it help me research their parents and grandparents? This is only a thing of typing. These equal is a hyphen, is ein Bindestrich. In Germany, we call it a Bindestrich. It's not an equal in a mathematical sense, but it's a hyphen. So it doesn't mean really much and doesn't give a special clue on genealogical questions. The spelling and typing of the name varies broadly in the church records and other sources. You can find your ancestors with many different spellings, and you have always keep in mind that you have to look for variations of the same name. Kleine Maß could be a name in two words: Kleine Maß, Große Maß, Little Maß, and Big Maß. That we have Hofnamen of neighboring farms, Kleine and Große, but Seppelfricke, that's one name, one word. Yes. What land records are available for Westfalen? In Prussian times, the Amtsgerichte, the courts of the local districts held the Grundbücher, land books, and they are all in the state archives, or mostly in the state archives in Münster and Detmold for most part of Westphalia. In the 1820, in the 1820s, we had the Urkataster. What's the name? What's the English word, Nancy, for Kataster? Oder Vermessung.
Yeah, like a making of the first maps.
Making of the first maps where you can see every small part of land belonging to somebody, an Acker or Wiese oder Waldstück. And the books, the Katasterbücher also to be found in the state archives, but the maps, the Katasterkarten, they are at the Katasterämter, the offices in the local areas. They still have these maps. Before 1800, there are also land records that were held by sometimes the princes of the territories, like the Bishop of Münster or the Count of Ravensberg, for every farm and landowner in their territory. But that's not the case in every territory. In Paderborn, Hochstift Paderborn, we don't have a Kataster for all the farms in the Fürstbistum Paderborn. So you have to go to each and every Grundherrschaft, the feudal landowners we talked about earlier, the monarchies and noble families, and they all have their own land books about the farms they own and what pieces of acre belongs to the farms and so on. There are many things, and if you have specific questions, you can reach out to us for a specific place and time. Where can I find maps of Westfalen? We already showed the website of the Westfälische Geschichte, where you can find tons of maps. Volker put the link in the description, and we're also on Wikipedia, and the state of North Rhine-Westphalia, they have also an online portal with modern maps and historical maps. We can put also the, Volker, kannst du den Link zu Tim heißt das, glaube ich, kannst du vielleicht auch noch reinsetzen.
Ja, ich setze mal beide rein.
Ja. I'm looking the birth and death records of my 5 times great-grandfather Heinrich Große Benne in Enger. He was a musketeer from North Spenge. We have a link to an Ortsfamilienbuch, but there are not more informations about that. There are some sources on these musketeers, that soldiers in the 18th century, in the State Archive in Münster, but mostly you will find informations in the church records of the cities where the soldier made their duty in Herford or Minden. Uwe, maybe you can add. Uwe, vielleicht kannst du da noch ein bisschen ergänzen. Alles klar. Nicht erreichbar. Doch.
Jetzt müsste es sein. So.
Ah, ja.
Gut zu ergänzen zu den Spengern und.
Ja, wo man halt, ich sagte ja eben, dass man eher in den Kirchenbüchern der Militärstandorte etwas findet, als in den Akten im Staatsarchiv.
Also es gibt ja einmal auch noch die speziellen Militärkirchenbücher von den einzelnen Regimentern,
Ja.
die die auch über Archion einsehbar sind, aber die halt einen eigenen, die nicht in einer bestimmten Kirchengemeinde zugeordnet sind, sondern eigenständig.
Ja.
Und gerade bei den Trauungen findet man dann oft Hinweise, die dann, dass die dann sozusagen proklamiert worden sind, also angekündigt. Also the name are say in the church that the people will married, and in the church records of the military you read they stationiert. Soldiers are in Bielefeld or in Herford, but they're married in Heben or in Enger or in Spenge.
Where they were stationed.
So I try to translate the soldiers in these times, like 18th, early 19th century. Mostly they went to the church in the town they serve their duty, or in their hometown. That can differ. You should look up both locations, or if you don't know where he served his duty, you can try it in Herford or Minden or in Hamm. That were the main military places in Westphalia at that time. But there were also some specific military church records that can be found on Archion for the evangelical soldiers and on Matricula for the Catholic military communities. It's widespread. You have to try out some things. Some baptized you will find there, and some marriage you will find at another church record. It's difficult.
To the military, Jürgen Klosterhus.
No, es gibt
a book about files to military and lists with names in which regimenter,
regiments,
in which part of the military are the people, men are stationiert. Nennt sie stationiert?
Stationed.
Stationed, yes. But many files are in Berlin, in an archive, and they are destroyed in the Second World War. Many of the military files.
Roland, we have a question in the chat also.
Yeah.
Was there compulsory military duty required in Westphalia in the pre-Prussian time, in the Paderborn area specifically?
Ob es dann eine Militärpflicht gab?
Ja.
Pflicht. In most of these small territories between 1800, the young men don't have to go to the military. It was very small regiments, and it was more a profession to become a soldier. Sometimes they have die Werbung, Nancy.
Like recruiting.
They tricked on people. They filled them up with alcohol, and then they signed to the military, and then they were a soldier. But the duty that every young man has to go to the military that was not a thing before 1800, 1815. Yes.
Thank you.
Ja, dann noch dieses Verfahren, das Auslosen. The young men, not all young men must in this time go to the military. They, was heißt auslosen, nennt sie?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Uwe. Tell me again.
Auslosen.
Like a draft.
Like a lottery.
Yeah, a draft.
And when a young man must go to the military, he can give another young man money. And so this man go to the military and himself not.
In his place. Yeah.
How can I, Moment. Jetzt muss ich mal gucken, die Fragen.
Roland?
Ja?
Roland, ich glaube, wir können gar nicht mehr alle Fragen im Einzelnen durchgehen. Wir haben unsere 2 Stunden schon überschritten.
Ja.
Vielleicht können wir überleiten ins Café, in die Lounge, dass wir da vielleicht noch weitermachen.
Ja, genau. Dann können wir die letzten vielleicht dann auch noch ansprechen.
Okay.
Kannst du das kurz erläutern?
Ja, das kann ich tun. So, we reached over 2 hours in our online Westfalen connection session, and we want to switch over to our WGGF lounge where you can stay, but we have one more thing. Archion, the internet portal of the Protestant churches in Germany with hundreds of thousands digitized Protestant church records, sent us 7 days trial coupons, which we can offer you. The coupon is only valid if you were not registered in Archion before. So if you would like to have a 7-day trial coupon, we can send you the codes. So if you are interested in one, so we can give only one to one person. So we have a lot of this coupon. So everyone who wants to have the code of a coupon can write an email to info@ahnenforscher-stammtisch.de. I put this into the chat right now, this address, info@ahnenforscher-stammtisch.de, subject coupon or Archion coupon, and then we send you the code. So feel free to get one if you like. Yeah, thanks a lot everyone for participating in this first online Westfalen Connection session hosted by the Ahnenforscher Stammtisch Unna, die Westfälische Gesellschaft für Genealogie und Familienforschung, and the International German Genealogy Partnership, IGGP. We hope that we could give you a brief introduction to genealogical Westphalian research and that you found connection or information to others of our big Westphalian family today. The Westfalen session will be continued as soon as possible. So check our announcement on the IGGP Facebook site, IGGP mailing list, IGGP website, the WGGF website, and the Ahnenforscher Stammtisch Unna website. We will post the addresses of the website into the chat, and don't forget to save the chat. You can save the chat when you go to the bottom frame, and in the bottom frame of the chat box, you will see a little square with 3 dots in it. When you click on this, you can save the content of the chat onto your computer. So to those who want to leave now, we say goodbye from Westphalia, Germany, the home of our ancestors.